Good evening. I acknowledge on behalf of the Board of Trustees that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Likwitwa people. I am John Kerr, Chairperson of the School District 72 Board of Education. In attendance this evening is Vice Chair Kat Eddy and Trustees Joyce McMahon, Susan Wilson, Daryl Hagan, Richard Franklin, and Shannon Briggs. Also in attendance are Superintendent Dr. Jeremy Morrow, Associate Superintendents Phil Sismic and Morgan Kyle, as well as Secretary Treasurer Kevin Patrick. Also attending is Lynn Logan, Assistant to the Superintendent, Jennifer Patrick, Community Engagement Officer, and Barb Drake, IT Manager, who provides our technical support. I hope I haven't missed anyone. I would like to welcome you all back from the winter break. I hope you all had a safe and restful break and that you are facing the new year with optimism and renewed energy. With COVID cases rising, we've gone to a virtual format of our public board meetings until further notice on the direction of the District Health Officer's office through the Environmental Safety Officer. This was done in order to maintain compliance with the Provincial Health Officer's order, which restricts the board's ability to meet in person. The order will be in effect until February 5th. If at that time the order is rescinded, the board will revisit this decision. If the order is extended, the board will continue to meet virtually until such time as it is given direction that in-person meetings are permitted. Our board and district continues to take precautions and to make accommodations where possible to protect the health and safety of all members of our learning community. In early December, the board sent a letter to the Ministers of Health and Education requesting that education workers be included in the category of essential workers, and that after the first group of people receives the COVID-19 vaccine, they be given a higher priority for vaccinations in the second round. The Deputy Provincial Health Officer has indicated that this will not happen. The thinking is that it will take until the end of March to vaccinate the highest priority category, and by that time, sufficient vaccine should be available so that it will no longer be necessary to prioritize vaccinations. The board continues to have concerns about the safety of education staff that are in contact with students who are not required to wear masks in class, and to bring this concern to the attention of other boards of education in the province. Therefore, it has submitted a resolution on prioritizing vaccinations for education staff as essential workers to Provincial Council for consideration towards the end of January. Since our last meeting in December, COVID-19 counts have continued to rise across our province. A bright spot in this ongoing emergency is that infections remain low in the North Island, and our schools respect the responsible behavior of the majority of people in our communities. While the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine gives us hope, it will be a long process, and it is crucial that everyone in the community and in the schools maintain their vigilance. Together we can and will overcome this scourge. On another topic, in response to a question which I posed at the board chair's virtual meeting concerning funding, the meeting was informed by the BCSTA president that boards will be facing difficult financial times over the next 2 years as a consequence of the $13.8 billion provincial deficit this year. This deficit was incurred primarily by the costs associated with the pandemic. Nevertheless, the board will make its best effort to ensure that our students' educational experiences will be supported to the best of its ability. Finally, I would like to thank our parents, staff, and management for all their efforts to continue to keep our schools safe and welcoming places for learning to support our students' achievement, and to thank our students who continue to make academic progress during these uncertain times. Okay, we will move to the superintendent's remarks.
Thank you, Chair Kerr. Chairperson Kerr, appreciate the fact that tonight I can share that our students have settled very well after the winter break back into learning routines and that they've been excited to return back to school. I would like to also acknowledge that a number of our staff, particularly in our elementary schools, found alternative and creative ways to celebrate the holiday season, many with virtual concerts and performances. I'd like to update that the Family Literacy Week will run from January 24th to January 31st, and the theme this year is Travel the World. Our grade 3, 4, and 5 students at our elementary schools are beginning to prepare and read their books for the Battle of the Books, which is gearing up for a February-March competitions. The theme this year is Thinking Beyond Ourselves. The Ministry of Education is conducting their annual learning survey for parents and students in grades 4, 7, 10, and 12. The survey is open for parents until April the 30th, and the information as well as the link to the survey is currently posted on the district website. I'd also like to provide an update that the grade 4 and grade 7 foundation skills assessment has been postponed by the Ministry of Education until February 15th, lasting until March 12th. And lastly, prior to Christmas break, we did receive notice from Public Health about a COVID exposure event at Carey High Secondary School. It was dated November 30th, December 1st, and 2nd. And while notice of an exposure is always concerning, I am pleased to share tonight that we did receive confirmation from Island Health that this exposure event did not lead to any transmission or further cases of COVID at the school. And we continue and I will just echo Chairperson Kerr's comments, that we continue to ask our parents and community to be vigilant in performing health checks before attending school, because schools reflect what is happening in the community. And so we continue to ask that that our community follows all of the public health protocols, which allows us to keep our schools as safe as possible. And lastly, in advance of the presentation, I would like to thank Donnie Fitzpatrick, a teacher at Carey High, who will be presenting tonight on some of the innovative programming that he's been responsible for at Carey High.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore. Are there any questions or comments on the remarks? Okay, in that case, then we will move to approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 1st, 2020. And the proposed motion is that the board, pardon me, that the minutes of the meeting of December 1st, 2020 are hereby approved as circulated or amended. Okay, Trustee Eddy and then Trustee Hagan. You're muted. Trustee Eddy, you're muted, I think.
Yep, I just got it. Thanks, Sean. I just have a quick amendment under 2206 Provincial Council motion. It said the motion reads as Trustee Wilson, your position as board representative, has submitted a motion to February 20th Provincial Council asking that teachers be given priority to receive COVID-19 vaccines. We wanted that to read education workers so that it covers everyone in our school district, all employees. So there are two, there's the education, the teachers substitution on the first line, and then the actual motion that the board submit a motion to BC trustees regarding priority vaccines for education workers.
Thank you. Trustee Hagan.
That's fine. Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, and so the motion will then read that the minutes of the meeting of December 1st, 2020 are hereby approved as amended. Could we have a mover for that? Okay, Trustee Hagan, seconded by Trustee Wilson. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion is carried. We'll move on to item 4. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Trustee Hagan.
Yes, I'd asked for an update on the music with choirs. I was wondering if we've gone any further with that.
Would someone care to take that question?
I think it was Phil was looking into it.
Sorry, before the break, I spoke with the head of the Music Educators Association, and I'm going to be meeting with the music teachers this month to look at what their needs are and what their concerns are. We did discuss kind of what safety measures are needed to enhance the vocal aspect of music. So I will have something for you for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other business arising from the minutes? Okay, we'll move on to item 5 then. Are there any alterations or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to approval approval of the agenda. And the suggested motion is that the agenda is hereby approved as circulated. Moved by Hagan, seconded by Franklin. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Item 7, report on board decisions from January 12, 2021. Trustee Eddie.
So in the confidential board meeting, we discussed lands, legal, and personnel. We have concluded our agenda for the evening, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. There are no public or agenda submissions, so we're going to move to educational submissions, and we move to Mr. Donnie Fitzpatrick, who will be making a presentation on careers and strong voice. It's all yours, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
You guys hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, you guys, and providing me this opportunity to share the career program at Carey High Secondary. The TYEE Transitions program that I'll be sharing is a result of information that we got from 3 different sources. And this has been a process that's been happening over the last, 5 years. One of those resources was a semester-long course called PCP that our former Carey High principal, Fred Schaub, had created. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail when we get into the slide aspect, but that was it's a really poignant piece as to how we got to this current program. We also have data that was collected by our students from parents, employers, teachers, and fellow students, which was a really cool process. And then also over the past 13 years, I've interviewed over 3,500 students from grades 7 through 12, trying to just discover a little bit about what their strengths are, where it is that they get stuck, and how it is that we can kind of create a different process for them so that they can navigate school a little bit better. So those are kind of the 3 main things that where we got our information when we created this program. And this is going to be like kind of like a bit of a fire hose, like probably it's like holy geez, because there's so much information to try and get through in a short amount of time. So hopefully at the end, if you guys have some questions, whatever, I can speak to those with a little bit more of the heart aspect of it. As you can tell, student voice is a really important piece in the whole philosophy of the program that we have at Carey High. The process that we've gone through and hearing from those students has been super powerful. And what's been really neat is in this last year and a half, 2 years, we then partnered. We took all that student voice aspect and we partnered it with all the core competencies and all the pieces of the strategic plan, and we've actually embedded it in there, and we're in complete alignment. And it's really nice because it provides more meat to it, and it also is something that as a staff, when we look at it, we're able to see exactly where it is, where we're going, and how we got there. So even though we talk, there's so many pieces to our program that has to do with emotions, and sometimes people think that that's well, is this a fluff thing? I can tell you that this is not fluff. It's about honoring students. It's about hearing them. It's about seeing them, having them understand themselves in a different way so that they can put their best foot forward so that students' achievement and whatnot can rise. So for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct your attention to a few slides, and with the help of Barb, because I wouldn't know what the heck to do otherwise. And these are going to outline a few things. One is what careers is. The 2 main insights that were learned from the course that Fred Schaub had created in 2016 for us. Where we are now currently, where we're going, and some of the results that we're getting. So like I said, at the end there, if you guys have, please ask questions, take notes, whatever you'd like to do. So are you guys able to see the presentation right now?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, you can. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're looking at the one right now that says careers. What is it?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. All right, so for some of you that may not know, careers is kind of, it's just for simplicity's sake, there's two branches of careers. One is kind of like more the traditional one that we've looked at, where people recognized as the dual credit path, University One, trades, apprenticeships. Currently, when I spoke to Jeff Lanteo, who's working with up at the board, he said that currently Carey High has 35 students in grades 11 and 12 involved in these programs. They're great programs. We also, the traditional one aspect of careers is that the work experience for students who have a job in our community, and they're also able to gain credits towards their graduation. Now, the second branch of careers is this piece right here, and this is where we're going to focus most of our attention on. So the CLE and the CLC. Now, CLE and CLC is career life education and career life connections. And it's 8 credits that are mandatory in regards to graduation. Now, the reason why we're focusing on this aspect of it is because when we have 35 students who are in a path and they kind of have an idea of where it is that they might want to explore, we're left with another 400. Well, we're left with 400 students. We need to be able to go, well, in what ways can we best serve these students that aren't on a specific career path involving the traditional offerings? So what our focus is going to be on for the remainder of this is going to be on the CLE and the CLC aspect of this. In 2016, Fred Schaub, who was our principal at the time, he did a really cool thing. He decided, he had heard all the different feedback we were getting from students around the idea of what their situation was in school, what their school experience was like, and whether or not we were actually meeting the goals of actually serving them. And so Fred had this idea, and he pitched it to myself and another teacher, Wayne Demers. And the idea was, we're going to take 2 teachers, Wayne and myself. We're going to take 40 students. We had a very diverse group, kids from grade 10 through 12. We're going to run a course for an entire semester. And the goal was to create a student-centered Carey High careers program. Now, Wayne and I had to come up with what was the focus going to be. So what we decided was, how can we help students navigate their current school years and have a successful and a smooth transition to life beyond Carey High? Now, when we did this, there was 2 main insights that we discovered. And this was everything. This was so student-centered, and it was great because you saw all these different voices come out that normally, and just the way they collectively came together. And these were the 2 main insights that we discovered as a result of this course. One was the human being versus human doing. Students said that there's so much focus on what they're going to do, because once you get to grade 11, parents are asking, teachers are asking, everybody, they're looking at their peers. Some of the peers are saying they know what they're going to do. And so many of the kids were like, they were freaking out. And this wasn't just like, even the kids that were doing very well academically were really struggling with this. And they said, you guys are focusing so much on what we're going to do one day. We don't actually know how to be right now. And so they came up with this human being versus human doing. And as a result, they said what we need is more self-awareness, and we need tools to navigate life to make these bigger decisions with confidence. So that was a really big piece that we took into account when we created this new program called TYEE Transitions. Now, this next one was pretty cool. This was the second insight. And what happened was, I was at home, I'm sitting there on Facebook, and I'm looking, and there was a picture of an island. And it said, if this was your island, what would be your #1 rule? And it was, quite comical to see what some of the things people had said. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this in and I'm going to ask the kids this. So I took it into class and I said, okay, you guys, so here's your island. What would your rule be? And you can imagine they had some pretty colorful ideas. And then I extended the question and said, now, if you had your own school, what would be your 1 rule? Now, the neat thing about this was we took 4 days where kids sat there, they brainstormed ideas, they were critical thinking around all these different ideas. They had to prioritize what this rule might be. And the idea was, or the one rule was that they had to have consensus. So after 4 days debating this back and forth, and this is, I love this because I think it's so powerful. The things that we thought that they might say, it wasn't even, we were way off. And this is what their one rule was. That it's mandatory for every student to see a counselor at least once per semester. Now, as we know, mental health is paramount right now. It is all over the place, and through all the interviews and whatnot that we've had with students, this comes up over and over and over again, and it breaks your heart when you talk to these kids, because it's not even like they're complaining or anything. They're just seriously unsure how to navigate right now. And the world is so, like, when I was in school, I had a hard enough time getting through. I mean, even as an adult, it's challenging. And what happens is we get really good at kind of like throwing on a mask and acting like things are great when quite often they're not. That's a question I ask kids quite often is, you know, we'll be in a group of 100 students and I'll say to them, I'm like, how many of you guys have walked down the hallway before? And someone says, hey, how's it going? And you say, oh, great. But really, things are falling apart. And you just see a whole sea of arms go up. And that is the reality of where we're at these days. And so the mental health aspect is, not only is it paramount in regards to just enjoyment of life, but it severely impacts like relationships that they have, their ability to make decisions, their self-image, self-confidence. And another one is the ability to see and build a compelling future. Like, how do I get myself, or how do I even create a picture of what could possibly be when I'm dealing with all of these things that are in front of me? And that's one of the things that I noticed a lot with our students is when I interviewed the students at Carey High as grade 12s, as grade 12s, I knew that I had all this feedback that I gotten from the Southgate kids when I was interviewing them in grade 7, 8, 9. And so there was a lot of things that I kind of figured I was going to hear. But one thing that surprised me was how much our kids that were on the Interact club, that were part of sports leadership, that played on all the teams, that were getting straight A's, that how challenging of a time they were having. It was all about covering up and this internal compass that was just completely destroyed. And I would see kids, and this is one of the reasons why Mr. Schaub had decided to create this course, was because we were seeing like 8 out of 10 kids come in and they were talking about their grade 12 plans and they had no clue, and they were terrified of what they were going to do and how they were going to move forward. And so it really brought to light how important this aspect of mental health and how it is that we're actually serving or not serving the kids, even though we're doing it with the best of intentions. And so obviously, not only does it impact all of those things like relationships and decision making and image and confidence and having a compelling future, but we know that all of that impacts student achievement, it impacts attendance, and obviously impacts our graduation rates. So what we did was we decided we were going to create a program, and we decided to call it TYEE Transitions. And we called it transitions as opposed to careers because it honored what the students were saying in terms of the being versus doing. The transitions was, they were like, we more want to spend time like knowing how to navigate these times of difficult transition while we're here at Carey High, and also the transition from life in school to life beyond. And so we called it TYEE Transitions. We expanded the program. We went from grades 9 through 12. Currently, we're servicing every student in all those grades in our entire school. Before, it used to be one time they would have a class in grade 10, as some of you guys might know or are familiar with Planning 10. And then in grade 12, there would be a grad transition meeting, which would only last a few minutes, and it was hardly anything that was going to prepare them for that next step. So now we've expanded that from 9 through 12. Fred Shaw, by the way, did a fabulous job with the effort and whatnot that he put towards this. He really stepped in. And when you go around and you look, we go to conferences in Vancouver, and it's like, it is a shame knowing how much kids are struggling with this stuff and how many school districts are moving to just doing this online. When I interview and talk with a student who's done this online and they haven't learned the common language that we've created and whatnot within our program, the quality of interaction is so different, and the angst and fear that they've got about their next step is it's night and day. It is completely different. So it's nice that we've got this grade 9 to 12 program all the way through. In grade 11 and 12, we created where each semester, like the students said, they have contact at least once with a career counselor or with one of the counselors. So in the fall of grade 11, the spring of grade 11, the fall of grade 12, and the spring of grade 12. The grade 12 interview that every student was required to do, we switched to grade 11. We wanted to be more proactive so that we could, when kids were dumping all this stuff onto us, we were able to then go, okay, we actually have time now to redirect you and pivot and move towards a different outcome. And that is proven to be a really valuable piece. The grade 11, we have a grade 11 course now as opposed to grade 10 planning. So we found that student readiness was important, so we moved that to grade 11. We implemented the capstone project, which highlights the core competencies and an individual plan that every student has when they leave our school. So when they leave, they're going to walk out with a plan, not only just about what it is that they think that their next best step is going to be for now, but also a mental health plan, and one that has supports, and we have built in strategies alongside them in their grade 11 course that they can lean on. This has proven to be a really powerful piece. And then when Jeff Lonteo was here at our school, it was a great 1-2 punch because we had a common language that the students had learned in grade 11. And then when they would go to have a sit down with him, you could get through so much because they had already done all the work. There was a common language that existed, and it just streamlined the process, and it helped provide confidence to those kids. So where to next? We have a new administration team here. We've got Louise Panziera and Rachel Nelson. Both are very keen to expand the philosophy into the younger grades. They are it's neat because I know that they're going to do just such a fabulous job in terms of helping those kids in grade 9 as they transition up. And another thing that we've been talking about as well is the transition program between Phoenix to Carey High. How important it is to catch those kids, especially as they're coming into a new place and they have a new opportunity to do things. We want to continue to expand on both quantitative and qualitative data surrounding student experience and performance. We just started doing that this year. It's one of the things I've reached out to the district that I would like to get some more help with and whatnot. But we look to continue doing that and build on that. We want to develop our current individual transition plans I spoke about that are unique to each student. And we want to continue creation of quality connections between the curriculum and the core competencies, and having those meaningful connections with the district strategic plan. So here are some of the results stated by the students. They have said that there's an increase in self-awareness. I wish we were able to have been doing this in person, because I've got a pack of student responses that are like, you can't. I remember thinking, if I could go through a day or a week and I could have one moment where I felt like I was going to come to tears because I was so moved by what was going on, I just knew that would be the indicator that I'm in the right spot. The results that we're getting with these kids, to hear not only just the heart and what's happening inside of them and the shifts that they're making, but how they're actually making those connections from that over into their student achievement and their belief in themselves, I can end up in like nearly in tears 4 or 5 times in a day. It is unbelievable. It has been even better over the last while when we've been doing the 5-week 1 course model, because kids are actually able to really sit into the experience as opposed to leaving class and then heading somewhere else and then fear of failure comes on again. It is so empowering. I love it. We see there's an increase in self-acceptance and a decrease in shame. Shame, you would not believe. If you like hearing these stories, you just like, holy smokes. Like, no wonder they have a hard time with certain things, because the shame that so many of these kids are carrying. And this isn't like a, oh, the world is terrible or anything. It's just unbelievable that I've always wondered why it is that we're able to see such great things in people, and it's so hard for them to see it. And I guess that goes for us individually, because I know that that's the same for me as well. But this was a big one. Increase in overall confidence, increase in resilience in dealing with prior challenges. So we've been teaching them reframing skills about, like life is happening for you as opposed to happening to you. Increased confidence in decision making. Kids had no idea that they had a decision making process. Like, it's unbelievable. We do these activities and kids are like, oh, my head hurts. Like, I've never thought of this stuff before. And it's interesting because even as adults, I pose this question to a lot of people and say, like, what is your decision-making process? And it's a challenging thing. Increase in clarity about future direction, more confidence in taking on academic challenges and having a life balanced as they're trying to do it. And increased experience in feeling seen, heard, understood. And obviously that is a huge benefit in the increase in mental health experience. So I know that was a bit of a, I hope I didn't feel like it was talking too much at you. I find this to be challenging. Yeah, so that's our program. It's something that I'm super proud of. I think that the people that on our team, like Jeff Lanteo, when he was here, he was really instrumental in this. There was Barb Preston, Rob Telford, Drew Swanson. We've got a stellar team, and we've had unbelievable administrative support when Fred was here, and now as Louise and Rachel have taken the reins. So I'm just really grateful that you guys gave me the opportunity to share some of this, and yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to hear them and go from there.
Yeti. You're muted.
Just reflecting on my own transition experience out of high school, I was sat in front of a computer and asked to answer a questionnaire and was given a few key areas that I might find success in. Thank you for taking the time to see our kids. Thank you for taking the time to help them build awareness that although it's a big transition, that they can do it and they are capable and that it will be okay. Our kids really need that. It's a very big step from high school to whatever happens afterwards. And I really think that every child in our schools need one adult that's pulling for them. So thanks for the work and thanks for the thoughtful engagement in this program.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Trustee Hagan.
Oh, I think you're muted.
You're muted. Yeah, thank you.
No, I just missed the button there. I'm really excited. I'm glad for your excitement. This was exactly what I've been thinking about all week long is with COVID on right now, how is the mental well-being of our teachers, of our kids in the classroom? I mean, somebody can pass away and you can't even have a funeral. You have successes and you can't even celebrate it. And the way I was looking at it was when I was a kid, I could be a goof in the classroom. It wouldn't matter. Or you could start to develop your leadership or where you're going to go and who you are as a human being. And I'm really excited to hear about this because these are the exact things that we need right now. to help these children in the future to become effective, well-balanced human beings in our society. Because without direction right now, people are just floundering. Everyone's floundering. And so bringing these kinds of skills and your kind of excitement to the classroom is, for me, so rewarding, and is exactly what I wanted to hear tonight. So thank you so much for your presentation and all the work.
Thank you.
Other questions? I have one. You've been running this program now for how long? 4 years?
Since we've been doing it for 8, but since we made the changes the last 4 years or 3 years, this is our 3rd year. Yeah.
Have you noticed any improvements in graduation rates, or can you see that there's any connection between your graduation rate and the process that our students are going through in school?
Well, I think the interesting thing that we're seeing is, like, I remember when I first got to Carey High, I said, you know, when I went to my first graduation as a teacher here, and I remember saying to Jeff, who had been here for Jeff Monteo, who had been here for years, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, how do we know that these kids are, like, that they even know where they're going? And I'm like, how many times have we sat there and talked with them? And he's like, it just isn't there. So in terms of the increase in grad rates, I think that's something that that's one of the things that I would like us to, and I've requested, is to get more help around creating that good data that's going to be really solid, that's going to be able to tie all this together. But I know that the kids that we have crossing the stage now are doing it with way more, like, if clarity and confidence and dignity, and we have served them tenfold of what we've done in the past. So the growth is happening. I can't see how it's not going to be increasing our graduation rates and student performance overall. But I look forward to also growing that aspect of our program and getting really clear on the data and kind of going, what is this going to look like? Because I tell you, you go to the other places in our province, and it's embarrassing. And I know that I probably shouldn't say that, but I don't even. We're doing something really good here, and I think that it's just going to continue to build. So I think that I look forward to growing that part of it.
Anyone else? Well, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I'll be really brief. It looks like, for me, what you're doing is inspiring, and I hope that you know, that approach gets to be known and gets spread throughout the province, or gets spread to people who really want to take it on and make something out of it. So thank you again very much.
Great. Thank you for the time, guys.
No problem. Glad to have you. Goodbye now.
See ya.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, we shall now move on to item 11, or pardon me, electorate and board matters, 11A. And we have 3 notices of motion. And I'm going to get Trustee Franklin to address these if he'd care to.
Thank you, Chairperson Kerr, and I want to thank the other members of the Policy Review Committee, Vice Chair Eddie, our Superintendent, our Secretary Treasurer. And I also like to mention Lynn Logan, who takes our thoughts and ideas and is able to put these in writing for us and get them out. And she's a real asset to the district when it comes to policy. She probably knows policy better than anybody. This evening, I make notice of motion as outlined in the documents in your package, and I hope we've had a chance to look at them and to ponder them over the next 2 weeks. I believe that these are policies that will improve communication between the Board of Education and the Indigenous Advisory Committee, and will begin a new initiative improving and and putting together a line of communication between student leadership and the Board of Education for School District 72. As well, following up from Vice Chair Eddie's suggestion at our last meeting, there is also a suggested addition to Policy 6, which will refine how the board establishes support for the implementation of a new strategic plan. So, trustees, I ask that you please review these proposed policy changes in preparation for discussion and at our next public Board of Education meeting. The other trustee on the committee is Kat. I'll turn it over to her if she has any additional comments.
I would like to thank Trustee Franklin for walking me through the process of how a notice of motion works. I appreciate his mentorship and I learned lots during this meeting. I am quite excited about all 3 policy changes. I'd also like to thank Superintendent Morrow for addressing the Indigenous education potential change with our advisory committee, with our Indigenous advisory committee. The feedback was very good. And I think that these policies will improve board communications moving forward with both that group and our student-led voices.
Thank you. Are there any other comments before we move on? Trustee Hagan.
I know we're not up for discussion right now. This is just a notice of motion without any seconders. I did notice on the student leadership that the agenda would be done with consultation with the committee and the board chair. I had actually thought that it would be the person who's assigned to that particular committee would have a better understanding than the board chair. I don't think that we need a real top-down kind of leadership style.
Well, I guess that'll be a point to bring up when the motion is made next.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Trustee Franklin.
Yeah, they're draft motions, so it gives people a chance to refine them.
Right. Good motion.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We will move on then to item 11B, which is a resolution regarding banking, and this is a housekeeping matter. I'll read the suggested motion. And this is a normal one. That the chairperson and vice chairperson, together with the secretary treasurer and the assistant secretary treasurer, be appointed signing officers for the district in accordance with the resolution regarding banking, which is attached to and forms part of these minutes. Could we have a mover for that motion? Okay, Trustee Hagan, a seconder. Trustee Franklin, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Well, it's 1-0. I didn't hear anyone else. I'm assuming that 1-0 wins, so yeah, the motion is carried. All right. So we will move on then. I'll get my page turned here. We'll move on to educational issues. That's kindergarten registration for 2021-2022. Associate Superintendent Sismic.
So just to let you know that once again, kindergarten registration will take place in the first week of February. We're in the process of putting together an ad for the newspaper that outlines the process in light of COVID protocols and restrictions. So anyone that has a child that will be entering kindergarten next year, stay tuned and look in the newspaper for instructions on how to do it.
All right, questions? All right, thank you. And we'll move to 12B, cross-catchment transfers. Associate Superintendent Kyle.
Hi, everybody. So the same situation will be for cross-catchment. It will also be in the paper. What we are looking to do is do the cross-catchments online so that we have a more efficient system, and it certainly takes into account people not going to schools in these times. And that, sorry, I was looking for my dates. Phil, can you help me out on those dates? Do you have them in front of you?
Sorry, no, I don't.
It is typically the second Friday of February for a 2-week, and they've got until the end of February to get those cross-catchment pieces into Lynn, and we will distribute then from the district office, checking in with schools as to their enrollment.
Okay, Trustee Hagan?
Yes, you've mentioned the newspaper, but I would imagine it'll be on our website as well.
Sorry, absolutely. We'll be looking at, Jennifer will be doing all of the push outs as she normally does through all of our social media and on websites as well as schools. Yes, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Then we will move on to business administration, and there are 5 finance warrants that need to be dealt with. Secretary Treasurer Patrick, did you want to address these, or do I just go ahead and do the motions?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point out, so this is batched in such a manner because we did have some turnover this summer in staff, and once our new assistant secretary treasurer had settled in and kind of got a handle on things, she was very quick to move through and get the finance warrants caught up. We just missed the last board meeting in December by literally like 2 hours, a couple hours. So really happy to see all these finance warrants done and submitted to the board, and looking for approval. And we'll be able to get these submitted on a more regular basis coming forward now that that she's settled in and doing really well in her position.
Okay, well, let's get your moving motion hands ready to go here. Item 13A, finance warrant, the suggested motion. Oh, did you have a question, Trustee Hagan?
Yes, can we not do all 5 at once? Or do we have to do them individually?
I think it's probably going to take about 1.5 minutes, so I think I'll just be on the safe side and do them individually. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the suggested motion, 13A, that the finance warrant number 6 dated June 30, 2020 be accepted as presented. Moved by Trustee Eddy, seconded by Trustee Hagan. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor then say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Sorry, opposed, say nay. All right, the motion is carried. We'll move on to the next item. That the finance warrant number 7 dated July 31, 2020 be accepted as presented. Moved by Trustee Franklin, seconded by Trustee Wilson. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. Okay, finance warrant number 8, that the finance warrant number 8 dated August 31, 2020 be accepted as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. There was no mover and seconder.
We need a motion. Sorry, we have a second. Sorry, we have a mover and a seconder. My fault. Getting ahead of myself. Okay, moved by Eddy, seconded by Franklin. Okay, any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Please say nay. Opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. Finance warrant number 9. That the finance warrant number 9 dated 2020 be accepted as presented. Moved by Eddy, seconded by Franklin. Okay, any discussion or comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, The motion is carried, and the last one is finance warrant number 10, that the finance warrant number 10, dated October 31, 2020, be accepted as presented. I think we're going to call on Trustee Briggs. Okay, Trustee Franklin, second by Trustee. Comments
Sure.
or questions?
Yes,
Yes, Trustee. Hagan.
yes, I was just wondering, I've asked this question before, is, with the costs of helping to assist with COVID security and everything that goes along with it, I was wondering, are we looking at a massive deficit, or is the money we're getting from the governments, the various governments, going to tide us through this year? Is there any kind of a general idea of where we're standing as far as that goes?
That's yours, Secretary Treasurer.
Yeah, so we haven't done a financial update to, typically we'll do one to December 31st. When we do that, we'll know for sure. From the planning and spending that we've been doing, we have definitely used up the grants that we've received, plus exceeded those costs a little bit. So I don't foresee a huge deficit, but I do see an overspend on both the grants that we've received as well as regular budget. So we'll be able to financial summary fairly soon. That will also help us with some of our budget planning as we look towards next year. We also have our final budget that we'll be submitting to the board for approval at the end of February. And I will have a pretty accurate picture at that time as well, up to that point of the year.
Trustee Hagan, follow up.
As with all the trustees, we always want to make sure that our classes are as safe as possible and that our students are doing well. And should the need arise, I would like to have a discussion about whether or not you need more money from the surplus to meet the needs. So at some time in the future, once we know where we're standing, I would love to have a discussion if there's anything that we need to do to make the situation as good as possible.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I have one, and it may be appropriate for another time, but I'll ask it now anyway. In light of the fact that the provincial government is moving the presentation of the budget back a month, how does that impact the district's budgeting process, considering that we have to have our budget finalized and submitted by, is it March 15th?
No. So we will get an announcement for the grants that we receive around March 15th. That's typically. The board is not required to submit a preliminary budget until June 30th. So okay. There is a chance that the grant funding announcement gets delayed a couple of days, although so far we've heard that the staff of the Ministry of Education is still hopeful that they can meet that target to give boards time to plan. But we do have a little bit more leeway. So again, June 30th is later. Typically our board has passed the budget in May, so that gives the board a month room for any delays to still pass the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? So we'll move on to item 14, the committee report. Sorry.
A vote on that?
On
the last finance warrant?
Oh, I thought we'd pass that. Okay. All those in favor of finance warrant number 10? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Okay, it is passed. Thank you, Trustee Hagan, for that. The committee reports. Now, this is one that Trustee Wilson and I have worked on and we've discussed because we've submitted a motion to the BCSTA Provincial Council Would you like to address that, Susan, and I'll follow you up? Can't hear you.
There we go. The letter was drafted before Christmas and submitted to the BCSTA. After a few days, there was a response from Adriaka, the lawyer, and she said that the format had been accepted and she just had a couple of questions for clarification that we might want to consider as a board. One of them was the timeliness. Is this something that is emergent? And I think that is the question that is a little confusing at this point, because we found out since writing the letter that the decisions have already been made. When this first came up, I think it was in November, we hadn't had that information shared with the public. And so to find out in that short period of time that the decisions had been made did, in a way, raise the question about, was this going to be accepted as something that was still emergent or not? And I think we wanted to bring it to the board again at this point to see if there was any discussion around that. It can certainly be, it has been accepted by Provincial Council, so we can leave it as it is, or we can tweak it a little bit if it seems like that might be helpful.
And to follow up, sorry, I just want to follow up on that before we get to questions.
Yeah.
I guess it was my belief that even if the decision has been made, it seems to be something that is worthwhile to bring to Provincial Council to discuss, and they can dispose of it as they see fit. If they approve it, then they can bring it to the government, because the government has been known to modify decisions in the past, and if the BCSTA approves that and goes to the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education, they can at least bring it there and present the concerns of the trustees of 60 boards around the province. So, Trustee Franklin.
I notice in the news feed from around the province that we get from BCSTA that many teachers associations are share our concerns, and this what we're proposing is not what the government is proposing, and I think that we should go forward with this letter.
Other comments? Okay, hearing none opposed, I'm going to say that this provides direction for Trustee Wilson when she goes to Provincial Council or when she has the Provincial Council virtual meeting on, is it January 26th or January 23rd?
It's actually in February, but the motion has to be accepted and approved by January 29th, so, or maybe the 26th. So it's wonderful that we've had the opportunity to discuss it again as a group on this, at this meeting.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yep.
So you're good to go.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move to item 15, any other business, and that is a letter to the board re-technology labs, and that's Trustee Eddy.
Hi, everybody. So this letter was written by Colin Rydell. Did I pronounce his name right? He is an English teacher, a senior level English teacher at Carey High. It was addressed to the tech department, Kai Taylor, and the Board of Trustees, and it was a letter of gratitude. It is being shared in the public meeting with his permission. It was a letter of gratitude to trustees for having the foresight to invest in the technology budget, which has become so acutely used during these times, but especially from a writing perspective at a senior high school level, having access to that technology lab in his classroom, he's seen a great uptake with kids engaging in writing and creating their own pieces. And he also went on to state, I actually want to read it directly from his letter because it's just so well written. He also stated, he said, much as we'd like to think our kids have ready access to personal technology, the last 6 months have clearly indicated that this is not the case. And the fact that we have been able to support our in-class learning with tech has been transformative. So I wanted to share that with the trustees that went ahead and approved that tech budget a number of years ago, and just to fill your buckets a bit and let you know that it's really making a difference in the classrooms.
Wonderful. Any comments on that? Okay, thank you very much. So, Trustee Hagan.
Yes, under any other business, I was just wondering if I could just talk about BCPC.
Yes, sure.
Yes, I was just wondering if we should give consideration with the letter that we're sending out about vaccinations, if BCPC shouldn't be trying to negotiate with the government on ensuring the safety of our employees as well. I think that we could probably have a two-pronged approach on this to say that we as an association, as an employer, believe that it's really important, not just as school trustees. We are the employer here, and it's our responsibility to try to take care of them, and for people to make decisions around who gets it or not without consulting the Employers Association and getting a response, I think is probably something that I can bring up at the AGM that comes up at the end of this month.
Trustee Eddy.
I'm wondering, Daryl, if it might be worthwhile to present a motion at the AGM and take it to the floor for discussion to see if we can't garner some support for your motion in the broader community.
Sounds good to me. I'll find out the timelines of that motion. I mean, of when motions can go forward, but I think you can do it right at the AGM.
Could I suggest that you bring a proposed motion and your rationale to the next board meeting and
Sure.
present it to the board so that the board will have the option to have a look at it and and ideally throw its support, throw its informed support behind your proposal.
Exactly. I wasn't looking for a motion tonight. I just was going to put this idea in front of you that I think that too often the Employers Association has actually just been getting used to saying no and no raises, but I think we should start directing because they are our representatives. So I can get a motion together and bring it to the board.
If you would do that, if you could send it to Lynn by next Friday.
Sure.
Not this Friday, but the following Friday, or actually earlier than that if possible, so that it can go in the board package for the 26th, and then we will be informed of what your rationale is, and we can bring it up for discussion with some background thoughts on it.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay, now we move to item number 16, which I need to put my cheaters on to read. Are there any questions from anyone present on agenda items for this meeting? And we'll move to our Community Engagement Officer, Jennifer Patrick. Do you have anything?
Chairperson Kerr, no, there is no questions that have come in.
Well, that's easy. Okay, then I guess the meeting is finished, so I'll call on Trustee Hagan.
Move adjournment.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. A very productive evening.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.